We are changing the world today with these prompts and commands. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Hash It Out with the Nerd and Guests today, Shay the Reporter and the Silent K.
Well, with what I found already, I get this feeling that I uncovered something, I stumbled upon something that I maybe should not have, and that
Oh,
there is
dude,
some.
yeah, because we just ran it through ChatGPT and you totally did. You 100%. That's what happened.
So if you could do like a 1 minute maybe of what your experience was, why you wrote these down, and then I'll see if I can pull up the screenshot of them while you talk.
Okay, so I'm going to be completely and 100% transparent without sounding crazy. I feel like this needs to be clarified that some would see it as a dream, but it was really not. I've heard things for a long time, and I get names, I get things, and when they keep repeating, I know I need to write them down. And as I was laying down trying to go to bed, these two names kept repeating over and over and over and over and over and getting louder and louder and louder and louder, like someone was screaming them at me. And I'm like, okay, I can't take this. I'm trying to go to sleep. I need to write this down, but I'm in the dark. I'm laying in bed. There's no pen. There's no paper. And I went, wait a minute. My phone's right here. I have the notes app on my phone. I could just type it in there. And when I started texting it, like, typing it out on my phone, it just started coming. Like, I thought it was just going to be a couple of names and okay, you're going to let me be. I can go to sleep. No. An hour and a half later, all of these names, this coding, these places, these phrases all come out. And as it's coming out, it's more like what I call an automatic writing. Something's coming through me and I'm just writing it out because I knew that if I went to sleep, it was going to drive me crazy and it wasn't going to let me not get this down. And so I went, okay, write it down, get it out of the way. Well, like I said, it wasn't a get it out of the way. And finally, when I was done, I'm like, okay, I don't have it in me to even look at this right now. I'm going to bed. I woke up the next morning and I thought that I was well adjusted to the fact of my reality. And I had my first cup of coffee and I sit down and I look at it and I'm like, what in the Sam Hell am I looking at right now? And I'm like, okay, put your thinking cap on. These names, these things, whatever this is, it means something. Start going through it. And I started looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, the first grouping is names of some sort. And then I started seeing that there's two of them that are actually, they look like maybe they're programs, but not like programs out in the world that people offer or something like that is what I thought. And then it starts going into what looks like coding. But oddly enough, last night I got curious and a couple of the things popped out at me and I got to look these up. One is the Pilgrimage View, and the other one is Site Viewcaster. I forget exactly what the Pilgrimage View is. I sent
Yeah, let me see
screenshots of it too. But that is actually a program of some sort, and the Site Viewcaster, what I was really intrigued by, it's actually a website program that you can go into and you can go on spirit journeys or spiritual journeys.
It's remote. Is it remote viewing?
So I've got both of her screenshots that she sent me up when she sent them through ChatGPT. It says Site Viewcaster is a platform used for streaming and broadcasting video content. It allows users to create and manage live video streams, making it popular for events, webinars, and online broadcasts. It's basically like this right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The platform typically offers features like customizable player interfaces, analytics, integration with various content management systems. It's ease of use. That's all it goes into. Now, the Pilgrimage View is interesting too. It says Pilgrimage View is a platform designed to facilitate virtual pilgrimages and religious experiences. It allows users to explore sacred sites and participate in religious events remotely through interactive maps, videos, and live streams. This service aims to make spiritual journeys accessible to those who cannot travel physically, providing a way to connect with religious traditions and communities from anywhere in the world. And then it says,
It's Jen, that's exactly what we were just talking about when we were talking about the ley line component, the fact that we have to, in order to go to the places, that's remote viewing those places.
yes. And then, so if you look at her list here, she has Penbrook. If I typed that into Google, one of the first places it brings up is Penbrook, Pennsylvania, which is in Dauphin County, which we did an interview the other day with Charles from Human Origins Revealed, and he talks about William Penn from Dauphin County.
Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, so Nikki.
Yes.
So I deprogram very similar to Jen. And what's interesting is that our conversation today actually started with AI. Jen's, written a book about how to train your AI. She's been using ChatGPT for, I've experimented with it, but not like what she's done. And we were talking about how AI is essentially this free energy mechanism, and that if we can train AI to get us the answers that we need, that we can essentially stay ahead of all of the programming. We can deprogram or whatever. So we started asking. She was mentioning things that you had said in your conversation, because Jen had been ruminating, she says, on these commands towards the end, right? This transcend, transcend. I've got it in my notes. Begin gain, stop maintenance. So what's interesting about these commands is we were asking ChatGPT to talk to us about how even the word amen, like one of the more recent questions we asked was, how can we interpret the word amen in a computer programming context? And it essentially told us that amen is like hitting the enter button. So I think a lot of these words are spells, and I think how it ties into the other things that Jen was saying about what these things are, what these computer programmings, video hosting services, AI character developments, these virtual spiritual journeys, things like this. We were saying that we think that we have this hypothesis that in order to run these commands on our brain most effectively in a way that really alters our reality, is we have to take from the memory and the energy at these certain sites, these sacred sites that we're discovering up and down the East Coast. I mean, not even the East Coast, all over North America, really. So it's just very interesting to me, because this is the first time that I'm seeing these names that you wrote out, and now Jen's telling me what she's finding these things are. Everything is tying together, both the mind commands, brain commands, because that's what we figured out too. What was the question, Jen? Talk about how we came up with the initiate boundaries protocol.
Oh, that's most concerning. Okay, so she and I were talking about your commands, and I showed her the screenshot of that I've got up on screen here. I hope we can see it, but I showed her the screenshot of how it, did the transcend, the begin gain, the stop maintenance, even when we messed it up. And I was talking about how important it is that we have your parentheses that you recalled when you were thinking these and downloading these. You saw the parentheses. So when it says that's a specific command is to be in the parentheses, then we thought, well, there must be a way to run a command that stops anybody from being able to, remote view or screen share or team view or any of those programs. And I see your site caster maybe or some of those. So I typed in a prompt that says, what are the run human command prompts to block third-party screen share and remote viewing options? And I hit enter, and she said access. So I wanted to rewrite it, and I was going to stop it anyway, but it started to tell me about being on a computer, and I was like, no. So I said yes, but remember when we were discussing stop maintenance and human command prompts for NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? Let's think like that. And what would a prompt sequence be that would block screen share, access and permissions on a brain or cell? And it said, if we're thinking in terms of NLP, metaphorical security settings, here's your mental boundary. Here's a conceptual breakdown of the prompts. Now, I only read you, Shay, the overall. Let's go through this. It says, initiate boundaries protocol. Meaning this command could serve as a reminder to establish and reinforce personal boundaries. In terms of blocking screen sharing and remote access, it signals the need to clarify what thoughts or influences are allowed and which are not. This prompt can act as a firewall, setting an intention not that only internal chosen thoughts will occupy mental space. Number 2, stop share access, meaning the command is like hitting a do not disturb button for the mind. It suggests a mental practice of stopping external input from affecting internal focus or personal well-being. It could be used to visualize an invisible shield that filters external influences, particularly those not in alignment with one's goals or values. I've always said it would be so beautiful.
Dude, that's protected and provided for,
That's
Jen.
it. That's it. And that's what we've said when we're like, I don't want this interfering with my brain. You know, I block it out. I bind it out. Our protection spells. All of that is a command, and it's stop share access. So then
Hey,
my permission.
so
Yeah, go ahead.
with all that being said, there needs to be a little bit backstory because this is honestly what I have been praying for and pleading for weeks. I have gotten to the point that I have so many intrusive thoughts. I have felt like absolute crap, and I felt like it was a spiritual attack, like none like I've ever had in my whole entire life. And I went, I got to do something. And I've tried my own herbs, my oils, my things that I do on top of everything else. And I've just been super hardcore thinking about it. I need to be me. Without no outside, just pure unadulterated me. I need to physically and mentally be cleared of all of these blocks and all of these things that have stopped me from being me and being able to do what I'm meant to do. I
That's
just
the
need
energy
help.
right now, dude. That's the energy right now. I love that. That's the
And
energy.
then for that to come out, that's what you found with that, no external thoughts. And honestly, since that, I haven't had these intrusive thoughts. I haven't felt like 20 people screaming at me at the same time, and I'm the only one who can hear it. And I feel like I'm going batshit insane. And I'm like, I know that I'm not. I know something's going on with me. I know something's going on with the energy out there, but I just don't know what the heck it is. And it became all consuming. And I'm like, I've got to get this out. And so
Well,
when
what if it's just as simple? What if it's just as simple as we are computers running neurolinguistic programming, and we can literally run these commands? I think that there's some tie to the systems of energy. When I saw the names in your list, the first thing that came to me, because there's a lot of initials and then names, is that they're literally like file destinations. Like, you know how when you run a command,
Yeah,
you like MS DOS, you would run d:\\, and then you would give it a destination file, Pinbrook file, or whatever the hell.
yeah.
That's what those names feel like to me.
So that's interesting. When you think about some of these whistleblowers, like I want to say her name is Madison Clare. She talks about her dad, Brian Cupp, being the first person to create a pizza ordering system on his computer.
Right.
I wonder if there's anything involved in that type of situation where, like, they were working on computer programming and situations in the early 80s. We know that the MK component is computerized, testing and things on our brains. It's just interesting that these dots don't all connect in the sense that maybe that's what they were doing in the GATE program with some of these things. We're like running the programs, and then at certain times in our life, we end up, missing a command or losing a parenthesis somewhere, and a code breaks, a chain breaks, and things don't work. We call it like targeting or self-destruction or all these different things. But what if it's literally our program is just glitching and we have to run the proper command? I mean, there's other situations that think about, like when you tap, or there's certain numbers that you can say, or certain things you do, and they're going to reset your meridians so that you're all, perfect and healthy. What if it's all based on our computer programming mind, and we have to run the proper prompts?
And see, what's crazy to me is I've heard people talk about downloading, and I've known for years that I do what I call downloading, that, I go through a moment that I have a really bad headache and I have crazy dreams that night and I can't remember. They're really like epiphanic dreams. And I wake up and I can't grasp a hold and remember any of them. And about a week to 2 weeks later, when things happen in my life, that I will start to be able to have access to the memory of these dreams. Like something in me had to be prepared and ready for it. And when I started hearing the names this time, I went, you want to know what? I'm tired of waiting. I want to know. And if you're trying to tell me it's worth saving space, and I'm going to do this. And whenever it came out and I sat there and I started looking at it, I went, I got to share this with Nerd. I got to let her know she is the puzzle piece. She is how I'm going to figure out what this is. And I didn't know how or why. I just knew that she was the one that I had to go to because I needed to desperately know what this was. And somehow I knew she would know this, not knowing that you guys had had these conversations about, computer programs and how our brain acts like that. I just, after I started looking at it, I'm like, dude, this is the proof. This is what I've been looking for. This was my whatever, my brain, my spirit guides, my whatever way of trying to tell me, look, you asked for answers. Here it is. Are you ready for it?
Yep.
And
So I just sent a screenshot because you're talking about you've been having this anxiety and this, intrusive thoughts. And so I think what this is it's a feedback loop. Like, so the matrix that we're living in is like, okay, so if we are computers, we're just the computer, like the processor part of the computer, right? We're not the monitor, right? We're looking at a monitor, and I think that's being hacked into, right, by these systems that are, causing these fear programs and things of this nature. So the screenshot I just sent is, I don't know if you can pull that up, Jen, 2, for the screen share, but the boundaries protocol, just listen to how you feel when you read it. It's initiate boundaries protocol. Deny permissions for influence, reinforce internal security, enable focus mode, end session. And then when we looked up amen and we looked up that word and we asked it to tell us what that word means in a programming, context, it told us that amen was essentially as if you're hitting the enter or the return key on a command.
Yeah, I've got it pulling up here. That's pretty impressive. I mean, how did you feel, Nikki? Silent K. See, here it is. Okay. Can you see it?
It's in the text.
This is interesting. So the amen part, yes. Let me pull that back up while we have the screenshot up, and I'll read that. Let's see, self-doubt, self-fear. So we asked, can the term amen be interpreted for a computer programming context? And it says, yes, the term amen can be interpreted as a metaphor for finalizing and confirming operation, especially if we think its traditional meaning as an affirmation or conclusion. Here are some ways: end of execution, confirmation of command, end return commit, commitment in transactions. It could be in database systems, could be metaphorical equivalent of commit statement, where a transaction is finalized and saved. So I don't know if she's still with us here, but Nikki, I think she heard amen very loudly 2 or 3 times, amen, amen, and was trying to figure that out. So we can maybe ask about that too.
to me, it was strange because I will be the first to admit I'm a very spiritual person. I have seen, witnessed, and experienced things beyond what most people could even put into words. Horror stories, horror movies don't even begin to explain my reality of the things I've seen since I was a kid. And when it comes to organized religion, I shun away from it. My soul shuns away from it. It does not mean that I don't believe in God or something of a higher power. It just doesn't necessarily in my world have a name. But it doesn't mean that I don't save space. It doesn't mean that I don't pray to whatever it is out there that is my higher power. And whenever I heard the amen, part of my subconscious was offended. And, my higher brain had to go, shh, just listen. We're not interpreting right now. We're just listening. And I went to think, if this is meant for me to understand that I don't think the amen was necessarily in a religious sense. That, like you
No,
said, that maybe
it's not. It's this is neuro-linguistic programming.
that's amazing that that's what it is, because I'm one of those that if it, because at first when I seen that I went, and then the part that gets me is the deliver us from evil for I have sinned. And I went, what the heck is that? I wonder if that in itself is a program or part of a
Yeah.
program.
That was part of your notes, right? Let me see if I have that up here.
The screenshot of my notes, it says it right before the amen, amen.
So you said something, say it again. Before the amen, you said,
Look, give me just a minute and I'll look it up and I can tell you exactly what it is word for word.
yeah, because I don't have that on here. I don't think if I can find that and pull that one up. It's very interesting to me. And also, I did have the amen of women and the saying of it up differently too, and that matters. Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
I
Deliver
found it.
me from evil, for I know I have sinned. And then you did again, transcend, amen.
Yeah, it's the
You said it differently.
transcend, to begin again, deliver me from evil, for I know I have sinned, begin again, transcend, amen, amen. And for me, I think for some reason, where there is a capital letter instead of a lowercase letter when it's not just starting a sentence, like that was important when I was writing it down.
Yes,
And I didn't
it's
know why, but I do know that in computer programming that does matter.
It does
yeah.
matter.
So I think it's file destination.
Yep. It does matter. Let me show you on the screen what I just typed in. So on your note here, and when I was doing this originally, it was from hearing you. So I typed in amen and then amen, like AHMEN, like amen. I didn't know how to spell it. And so everything we just talked about went off of amen and amen. But when I saw your notes, you had AMIN. So I said, what command prompt is amen? It said honest, trustworthy, faithful in Arabic. Could be interpreted in programming as emphasizes integrity, confirmation of reliability or authentication. Verification command, like a verify or validate function that verifies the trustworthiness or integrity of the data. An authentication prompt to authenticate amen could imagine.
It's giving it status.
Yeah. It's definitely the level up, the rank. Like I'm gonna override.
Okay. So what is really crazy to me is that this has not been touched on. I talked about how, there's things in my life that, a lot of people don't see. And I've experienced a lot of things because of that. And so I've hid it because I have been terrified of it. And me and Jen have been talking that, maybe this is why you feel you've had so many past lives, is because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. If you're hiding from and denying who and what you are, then you'd have to start the program all over again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to go into the crazy semantics of how many I believe I've had, because that's neither here or there right now. But what I am getting at is that this happened after having a conversation with her about giving into my higher power and to stop being afraid of myself. And I need to stop hiding it, and I need to stop denying it, and I need to use it for what it's meant for, and I need to help others with it. And then after having this dream, we'll call it, after that, when I did fall asleep and I did have dreams, for the first time in my life, I got an answer and I got clarity of what my mission is and what my abilities truly are and why I am here. And I would like to say that part of me was surprised, but I think part of me knew it all along. It was just, even now, it's hard to speak the words out loud because it doesn't sound real. It sounds like something out of a supernatural movie, which would make sense because I feel like my whole life is based off of television shows like the show Supernatural. That's why I like things like that, because it kind of made me feel normal. Like part of me wasn't so crazy because I'm surrounded by all these normal people that don't see the big literal elephant in the room. But I
Mm-hmm.
see this thing and you have to act like you're okay and nothing's wrong and you don't feel like this giant elephant is going to sit on somebody because you're the only one there who can see this thing and everyone's acting like it's okay and you're trying not to be panicked because you know that okay, just because they don't see it doesn't mean that it's not real. And I don't have this fear that this thing's going to happen to someone else in the room. And then they're going to
Right.
be like, wait a minute, you knew this thing? And it's like, crap.
Well, like deprogramming is always fear based. So you like deprogram through fear. So not being afraid of what you can perceive is definitely key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a key that should be put on the ring.
This is very interesting.
Yeah.
So
It is.
essentially, we can all, and I think we have ever since we got that command, put up initiated boundaries protocol, because I think there's some element here that if we look at this like we're computers, like just that very simply, and that we're functioning, and that's how our reality, our feedback system works as well. Like we can hack it. I know that sounds hella schizophrenic, but it's the reality of it. And I think these ancient sites that we're finding are part of this too, Jen, because it's like these places store memory and we're able to access this memory. And I think it's crazy that then some other person that's randomly not connected to us at all has this automatic writing session where they come up with these commands.
Exactly. And I tried to, so like Nikki and I have known each other for a very long time. And I tried to ask her questions like, have you and I talked about this? Did you know this? Did I tell you this? Like after she decoded all of this, because I wanted to make sure that I hadn't in any way, shape, or form implanted any of this, or she hadn't been researching this, or it wasn't shown to her on her feed, like I went through all of the things to like deny that, this could be as big as it is. And she hasn't gone through that. We hadn't talked about it yet. She didn't know about the Charles interview that we did until she sent me his thing after I told her we had done it. She was like, oh, I've already sent that to you on another platform. I didn't know you knew of him. And so it was like, her mind was coming to the right conclusion, the right command, honestly, natively, naturally. And something in her was like, out of all of her friends, everybody she could talk to, she was like, I need to talk to Jen. She's going to understand this. My soul lit up while she's telling me this. And my immediate response is, when I don't understand something and it seems like gibberish in my head, I send it through ChatGPT so I can get out of imposter syndrome. And that's what I teach. So I was talking to her and didn't even think about it. I put a couple of her commands in here, like, what would this mean? And that's when, like, I shocked at how much of her download relates to everything we've been talking about. And it's not that, I mean, it would be one thing and interesting if it related to the nail polish color we were talking about, how quaint, but it's not. It's the origin of humanity. It's the origin of our ancestors. It's our, our ancient communication techniques, like the minerals and the gemstones that allow us to do certain things that we are still utilizing today. Like it's very strange that stuff is bringing all of us together randomly, and that I just so happen to know how to handle AI, and you just so happen to know how to, ask for boundary protocols, and she can tap into the downloads. It's like, how on earth did these three components come together randomly? It's interesting. It's not coincidental.
Because to me, what's crazy about it is I wasn't just, hey, I need to tell her this.
Yeah.
No, I was told this. Just like this list that I was given, that same voice, that same entity, that same whatever is the same thing that told me, you have to go to share this with Jen. But with a lot of things that come like this, I couldn't do it right away. So it was a couple days after it happened, and I think it was because I needed to brace myself. I wasn't ready yet, and I don't know exactly what it is. And this might sound absolutely crazy, but I feel like that list, for some reason, is like absolutely imperative. Like it is some kind of code, some kind of key, some kind of something that opens something else up. That this is just a beginning of something. And I also get the feeling of I have this information now, and there is something out there that I feel that does not want me to have this information. Like it's something that I shouldn't have. And I don't know exactly why I feel that way, but I do. And I feel like it's important to share this because I think other people need to know it. Because if I'm seeing this and feeling this, I can't be the only one. By all of us connecting together and, with us talking about the human origins and things, that, there's no way that those are just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences.
I don't
Everything
believe in
happens for a
coincidences
reason.
either, not at all.
Everything happens for a reason. It's all meant to happen. It's like in the grand scheme of things.
I say that all the time. Everything happens for a reason. I've said that
I
my whole
love
life.
it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
This is
and the
crazy.
bottom part here is interesting too, where you have the right under where it says State Farm Buy Now. I think the pieces under that are legitimate code, like spells or something. Because you probably meant to say vibrate, but I wonder if vibrate means something, right? And in order here, when we talk about command prompts, things happen differently depending on which way you put the characters in. So it's interesting that you had the download of what these command prompts were. Then you
Yeah,
had
I'm looking
Command
at that now. The
City.
spelling matters.
Yep.
The transcede.
The translation was really interesting. Did you read that, Jay? I don't know. Let me pull that up and let's read through that. I did it on the podcast the other day, so if you're listening and you've already gone through this, feel free to go through. But it was very interesting, the transcede, because she was like, when she was telling me this, she says, I don't know what this means. It's like it's like a mixture, but I wrote it down. And I could be wrong, but that's what I remember her saying. And so when I read it from this perspective, it was really, really interesting. It says, transcend meaning, a blend of transcend and seed. This command implies planting an intention or an idea that aligns with one's higher purpose or goals. It might be used to set a mental seed for transformation or growth, encouraging focus on a new vision or path and creating a mental foundation for change. So if you do it in order here, you're supposed to elevate beyond your current state, then imply an intention, and then begin gain is where you gather the new knowledge. And then stop maintenance is where you let go and you step out of autopilot, making room for you. So it's very strange.
And then it
So
said,
to
and
me,
then it's after that, you scrolled, it says begin game again.
Well, so that one we need to take out. That was my misunderstanding of what this was, and it rewrote it this way. So I don't know if that means something, but she didn't decode that. And it was a misunderstanding of this one, which I put down here. I said begin gain again, and that's what she read to me that she had it spelled like. I said equal.
Oh yeah.
That is the command. Decode it, and it said okay. So begin gain again could be decoded as restart the process of achieving positive growth or success. And then this part signifies fresh start or initiation. Gain refers to growth or improvement, a reminder to actively seek value in what one does. Again, placed in parentheses, this reinforces resilience and the idea that even if growth has been interrupted or delayed, there's always an opportunity to begin anew. It acknowledges past attempts, which you were talking about, past lives. And then it says perhaps even failures, but refocuses on persistence and.
Okay. So with that being said, I want to put something in there real quick. I think that's crazy that it emphasizes on the fact that no matter what age or what part you can do that, because I've been really big on I'm not where I want to be or where I'm supposed to be, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get to where I'm meant to be. And I keep seeing these affirmations and these things all over online and things that, this person didn't start their acting career until they were this old. And Tesla didn't do this until he was this old. And Einstein didn't do this until he was this old. And, it's that whole just because you're not where you're at right now doesn't mean that, one day, 1 week, 1 year can't be that one turning point that changes your life. And the fact that that's in the coding along with the vibrate part, because another thing is through all of this shifting, changing, and things I've been going through for the past several months, I feel like my whole body vibrates. I hear vibrations so strong in my head that I have to cover my ears and take a minute to recalibrate myself so I can handle this constant vibration that in one way, shape, or form my body has been under for the past several months. And the fact that in that coding there's vibrate and then parentheses vibrate, that's weird and crazy to me because these are a lot of things that I have not said a word to anybody about. And it's all in this coding. And then the fact that the Delaware, the D is in there twice. I have had profound spiritually changing things that have happened to me that once again, I haven't talked to many people about because it sounds crazy, but I
Well, I
know
had the
that it
same
happens.
experiences in Northwest Georgia, and Jen had the same experiences in Delaware. Like that's what we're realizing is that so many of us these places that we're drawn to have some sort of significance, and that's what I think some of those other names that you came up with these idea of these taking these remote spiritual journeys and engaging in these rituals remotely. Like when we look at Google Maps, I think we are because we are computers, we're essentially remote viewing. Like we can put our energy in these places, and I think there's something significant to these places that has memory and that we can draw power from.
I think that makes a lot of sense because I think with the states and the places, I don't know a whole lot about it, and I've put it into ChatGPT myself. I don't know any level of it that she does that, to figure all of that out. But what I do know is that there's a couple places that repeat itself, and it's not just like it's states that repeat themselves.
Yes.
And I know that me and Jen have gone on travels and journeys that I call them because had we not have been together, I don't know if we would have both either had the experiences that we did, but some of those places that we went and that we were drawn to are actually on that list. And I think that that list is, to me, when we first went on that journey, my brain went to the reason I was going in some way, shape, or form. I had to get closer to out west because I had to go to Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I did not end up going to Portland, but it doesn't mean that I still didn't find in ways what I was looking for. And I think part of it is the whole part of Portland, Oregon is there are stones in the ground that are supposedly from the first people who landed in that spot from somewhere else. And they had like medicine men and women and the wise elders of the group that they put stones into the ground that if healers and people of the medical field or of the light came to would have a downloading of information. And I wonder if that's what those
You're
spots.
100%. That's 100% what that is. 100%. And that's what this human origins guy has found is that that's exactly that the rocks he's found. He's done the mineralogy on them. He's sent them off to labs to have them, independently verified. They're producing electromagnetic frequency. The ground is electrically charged, and the electromagnetic frequency is variable. And variable information like that contains code. So all we're doing when we're going to those places is we're using our DNA as a receiver to then receive this information that exactly like you said, this culture that was before, and you can call it, Atlantis, you can call it, it's just, they utilize the elements, the minerals, like in order to make advanced technology that communicates with us across time.
Okay, so once again, this is
Yes.
crazy because without the risk of sounding crazy, when I spoke of past lives, it's one of the ones that I don't have a lot of memory of, but I have enough memory of to say I know for certain that I have an Atlantean past life. And when I start to see these things that come out, which is part of the reason why I seen him on TikTok and was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I didn't necessarily want to send it to Jen because I was like, is she going to think I'm a complete weirdo for sending her this? And then I'm like, she's already found She's actually talking. Okay, maybe I'm the crazy one here. And so, I was like, wow, that's kind of strange, because there's been several people that I've done that with that I've been like, hey, I need to send this to her so she can see this. And she's already friends with them. I think you were actually one of them. And there's another one that I'm like, okay, I know she's connected like that. I know that she knows these people, but the fact that I'm finding them organically on my own without her influence and finding them going, I got to share this with her. She's already followed, liked, and reposted several other posts. Oh, she knows what I'm talking about. Never mind.
I love that. I love that though. So that's one of the most favorite things about this. So since I started helping people decode and like doing these calls and tele events and things, I've heard a lot of these experiences, and it's almost like there's so many similarities to them, but everybody is so beautiful and unique in their own wake up experience, and I want to hear it. Like when you show me and you're interested in something, like I love it when you send that over to me, because that shows me where you're at on your experience, what you're finding, and you find and think about things in a totally different way than I would have ever put them together. So even if I've already seen the video, when you send it to me, there's always a purpose. And so I find it most interesting. And I told Faye this, I said, it's very interesting that she has been able to come to these conclusions on her own without any influence from talking to Jen. Because I've noticed over the years, like some of my clients in the business realm, I can see where I influenced decisions that made them do a thing that did this, that did that. So I can, and they did it with their own genius, but I can see where I wonder if I hadn't suggested this, what would have happened. And I do love that I can do that. But in these wake up experiences, I want no part of that. I want you to wake up and then, when I woke up, here's all these resources I found. And it's interesting to me that you're able to find these things on your own, find your answers, and then they also connect into my story. So when we're talking about friendship wise, it's interesting that we even so much as found each other out of the how many billion people on the planet, and then have these things in common. And we're able to get along, because you and I were mentioning that we're not usually friends with females. We don't really like girls, get along with women very well and don't have a whole lot of female friends. So for us to have randomly connected and become friends, and then there's Shay with the component of that too, it's a very similar situation. How did we randomly, algorithmically align and then have all of these similar dots on the table and then actually be able to get along and chat and be a friend? It's a very interesting situation. How did that happen? It can't be coincidence. I have a friend that,
because we were meant to find each other.
I think so too. I mean, how did all these gate people find out at the exact same time frame in, the decade that they don't remember their gate program?
And with you saying that, I think it's crazy, because I thought that at a young age, I realized what they were looking for, and I felt like I outsmarted them, and I wasn't in the program. But I've seen something the other day that triggered me and triggered a knowing. I don't know how I know this, but my brain went, oh my God, I might not necessarily been part of that program, but I instantly felt mind rape. Like, that feeling of you just don't feel clean, you feel dirty, like something bad happened to you, but you just don't know what. And for me to have that realization, and then to have the downloading coding, because I knew when I was going into it, I'm like, I feel like I'm having a download. I could tell like hours beforehand that's exactly what was going to happen, because I've had it enough and had it happen but I've never caught it like I did this time. And to me, it was so strange that, I had felt that way and realized that, and then part of what I get, if not all of what I get, is actual coding. Was very strange to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only was it, it was purposeful the way you wrote it down. And we'll wrap this up here. We're coming up on 48 minutes. It's going to be a long recording for people to listen to. But I do want to focus on the fact that you wrote things down in a purposeful way. Like, for instance, if I write into ChatGPT the command code for verbate interpreted as vibrate in this context, it comes out with a code. Now imagine that you, in affirmation mode, woke up and did this command, right? And it says vibrate command, it says function. I activate my inner resonance, aligning with energy, focus, and presence. I vibrate at my optimal frequency, fully aware and engaged. Mental image, you do a visualization, visualize your body and mind vibrating with energy, pulsing in sync with your goals, and radiating presence and focus. Use case, this prompt could be used as a grounding or energizing tool before stepping into high stakes environments, public speaking, or situations that require full presence. It can also be used as a mindfulness trigger, helping you feel in tune with the moments or goal at hand. It's perfect.
Wow. That's beautiful. I love that one. I'm here though. I'm back.
Yeah, welcome back. So yeah, I mean, she wrote all these things down in her download. And so I'm going to go through a minute, just for the last couple minutes of this, unless you have anything else, Shay, I want to go through some of the things she said and just read and put on the screen what they are. We can go through them later. But there's some interesting stuff she put in there that I think we should go through as a prompt.
I think we do another episode on this. I think this has been great.
Yeah, that's really, okay. That sounds good.
So before we wrap it up, I do have a quick question that hopefully doesn't lead into a really long one. But my question is, both of you looking at this list, being it naturally organic, just showed to you, not necessarily knowing exactly what it was, from that point until now, looking at that list, how does it make you feel?
Like I've just broken some secret code of eternal magic that I can now manipulate and use to my advantage.
That's right. So I said to you, Silent K, I said, you are a genius. And you said, why do you say that? And in the term of Shay, an hour ago, there's your programming. That's the programming. That's the programming command. That's where it's broken. You are a genius. You had this experience. You knew to write it down. Out of all the things going on, there was everything you could do. You could have gotten up, gotten a bag of chips, and watched Spaceballs, but you didn't. You did what you did, and it made sense. And there was a reason that you were put in that position, because if you were able to make that connection and then have the connection to have somebody that knew how to use AI and then have the connection to a reporter that knows how to get things out in a minute, like how on earth could that have happened to anybody else? In that scenario, it was meant to happen. So your goal, you are a 100% genius, and your programming has been broken. There's some programming glitches, and I want to look that up also, that tell us that we are not good enough. We are not perfect. We're not worthy. And those are the things we need to reset.
Yeah, and I think this is like a cheat code. This is a cheat code to doing that.
Exactly.
I mean, so even the fact that we ran these codes prior to this call. Like the act of the information accumulation that's happening right now and the correlation that's being built right now through these levels of connections and it's kind of like the way a computer works. So a computer has to have a processor, something that runs the information, the actual motor. It has to have memory, right? Which is usually like in a hard drive. It has to have memory, and it has to have power. It has to be plugged into something so that it can do it. And so this idea of this trinity, this like three points here, with Nikki serving as the memory and me serving as the processor and Jen serving as the power, or however you want to metaphorically lay it out. It's just three pieces of a puzzle that came together to get this download through. And I think that makes it even more significant on a spiritual level for me about how this can be utilized moving forward.
Yes, that's beautiful.
To me, you just put keys into places just by saying that phrase. Because the word Trinity has been instilled in me throughout my life. It has been, for lack of a better name, one of my stage names. It is also been one of the counties that I have lived in that I had a very extremely strong experience. And it always keeps coming back to the Trinity in my life. And with you saying that, that tells me right now that there was a reason why I was meant to tell her and she was meant to go to you about this, because for some reason the three of us were meant to put our brain power together to figure this out.
Well, when I launch this up and we see the comments, I'm hoping there's at least one person that can say, yes, you are talking to me, because that's why I do this thing. And that's exactly why I wanted to end this with something that would, if you are running negative scripts, if you are running self-doubt, and I'm saying this to myself, a lot of times I get the most preachy when I'm supposed to be running these things myself. So I'm going to try and absorb some of this. We'll see if it happens. But we're starting a new month. Let's do a challenge. Let's not run any of these negative codes. So if you're running a negative code, run self-doubt, means the command perpetuates feelings of inadequacy, making it hard to trust yourself or one's abilities, leading to chronic self-doubt. A patch for that would be install self-trust. Your action, replace with affirmations like I am capable and trustworthy, or I am enough. Practice setting small, achievable goals to build confidence, gradually rewiring the mind to trust its own decisions and skills. So, say to tie things,
because it's literally neuro-linguistic programming.
yeah,
We are doing neuro-linguistic programming is spell casting.
yeah,
These are the same things, and exactly what you're talking about. I think too, the idea of for the next month making some sort of that's the next step in this whole thing, is to run experimentation, is to run these programs in real life, making, like accountable points in time to run the neuro-linguistic programming. How do you run it? You have to speak it.
you do, and you have to stop running the command that broke. I mean, if you're running a game that is broken, you cannot put that disc in your Xbox and have that game work. If it's literally got a scratch down the middle and it's broken, that command is broken. It won't work. So you have to run a different game. You have to put in a different disc. So if you were to, let's just put these out there real quick, and then we'll say our closing remarks. Over the next 30 days, focus on stopping running the negative code of run self-doubt, run self-sabotage, run critic loop. This one is very important, so focus on this one. It says this code keeps the inner critic active, replaying self-critical thoughts and judgments, which can block happiness. That one needs to be done. So initiate self-compassion mode. Holy mother of pearl. So anyway, we've got the negative code install over identification with negativity. That one says this code causes a person to over identify with negative thoughts or past traumas, making it hard to see beyond current struggle. That's huge. So then we've got the negative code run limiting beliefs. Instead, you want to have something instead of change is impossible for me, you would replace that with replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones by practicing new affirmations. That's what we're doing right now. So that's the action
Yes,
of
that's
what
what we're
we're doing. And then the last, I think there's two more. So there's run negative code. We don't want to do this one. We don't want to initiate comparison mode. We instead want to install the PAT self-focus protocol. So negative code, enable stress feedback loop. Instead, install the patch, install relaxation routine. It's just identifying where your weakness is and filling it in so something else can't fill it in. It's also like in the skin term realm, when you need to exfoliate, the exfoliation process might feel a little rough and you're going to get rid of a few things, but you got to do it to be healthy. We have to stop running these negative codes.
Yes, absolutely.